Hello everyone, Vila here to welcome you to the 7th Live with Leverj product update webinar. Just a reminder, we welcome any questions you may have throughout the webinar. Go ahead and drop them in the chat box here on YouTube. Also, you're welcome to speak up in our Telegram channel or message any member of the team directly, and we'll take breaks to answer your questions or get them all answered by the end of the webinar. So today on our panel, we have our product lead Swapman with an exciting product update presentation. We are also joined by CEO Bharath Rao, CSO Shashank Tiwari, and CTO Nirmal Gupta here to assist in answering your questions. So let's go ahead and get started. Swapman, take it away.
The program participants, as well as have some updates on the new hires and also sort of a sneak preview into what you guys can be expecting over the coming months. In terms of the new build that we put on since the last update 2 weeks ago, we've completed the withdrawal functionality. So whether you call it withdrawal or a transfer out, whatever terminology you use, the getting your funds from the plasma chain over into your Ethereum account, that function is now complete on testnet. We've been testing, a lot of you have been testing that out over the past week, pointed out a couple of problems, and those have been ironed out. There's still a couple of remaining bugs to be ironed out, which we are aware of and improving. Aside from that, the full journey is complete on Ropsten. So you can start from scratch with, say you have 1 ETH in an Ethereum account. You can start from scratch with MetaMask on the test environment to transfer this ETH into Plasma, do a little bit of trading. We have a couple of pairs on there, which I'm going to demonstrate for you shortly. Then you can settle those balances and withdraw from the Plasma chain over to your account on Ethereum. We're also going to, in the coming weeks in the beta program, going to be starting to shift our focus to the user experience and some UI improvements, which are sorely needed. As we said last update, the main focus has been the core functionality in the current part of the beta program for the past month or so. So now this core functionality is starting to wrap up this month. We are now able to start focusing more on usability, which is just as important as getting the core technological functionality going. So before I do this demo, I wanted to, while we are talking about the UI UX, last update we mentioned that we were looking for a designer, a UI guy to help out, and we are pleased to announce that we have found a great full-time front-end developer. Currently, he's working on the staking app, just as a little sort of test case to see how he can get a bit more understanding of what the Leverj is doing, and improving the UX on the staking app, and then from there we're going to shift over to the platform, where in the coming for the rest of the year, essentially, he'll be working on improving everything in UI UX for the main product, which being the platform itself. So before I go into this demo on testnet of the Plasma journey, wanted to introduce this concept of a custodial trinity. And so we've had some good feedback from some of the beta testers and others in the Leverj community asking, do you really have custody of your ETH or your ERC20 tokens when you are trading on Leverj? And the answer is yes. That's the whole point. And I know it's difficult for some to believe and understand, and part of that is because of the complexity of the system, and part of that is probably on us not communicating this effectively enough to some of you. But so this, I've attempted to sort of outline this visually for some of you that might benefit more from this. So when you are starting out with funds, you have them just on Ethereum, on the main chain, and it's undeniable that you have custody on that. You have the private key and you own it, period. And then when you are transferring funds into Plasma, what you are doing is you're transferring assets to a smart contract, a custodial contract we have set up. Some might say this doesn't mean you have custody, but of course, if you have a smart contract where only you are able to, run the method that is going to withdraw those funds to you, then you have effective custody still. So that's what we have set up. And then on Leverj, this third pillar is where you have zero knowledge API keys, which are able to conduct certain actions on the Plasma chain and create a full audit proof that makes it so everything is verifiable and cryptographically secure. And because of these three pillars standing together in Glue on Plasma, you are able to maintain effective custody, even while doing a lot of really high off-chain calculations. So I just wanted to introduce this before demoing. And so in this workflow, there's 5 main steps. So one is transferring funds in, whether it's ETH or ERC20 token. You are going from the Ethereum main chain to the Plasma chain. And then when you are trading, then you, as the user, are conducting off-chain transactions with the Leverj, but they are verified within this Plasma chain. So you have balances that are updating on Plasma, and you are able then to maintain custody throughout these steps until you transfer them out back into the Ethereum chain, where you are just completely you have the direct private key access to it unambiguously. So let's go now to the testnet. So a couple of webinars ago, we already had walked through the registration flow. And in this demo, we're going to be using MetaMask. And because of the way Google Hangout does the screen share, you're not going to be able to see the MetaMask actions that I'm doing in this demo. But that's because if I share the full screen, it shows all 3 of my screens. So it's even more difficult for you then to see what's going on. So just bear in mind that as I am doing certain things, I'll be verbally telling things about MetaMask, which I can see, but you not necessarily can. So in this current account that I have set up here on the test.leverj.io, you can see here we have currently only 3 assets. We are keeping it simple. There's obviously Ether, and then there's our primary token Lev, which we are able to stake, which then receives fee in the whole staking model. And so we'll start out with that first step, which we call deposit here. And I'll put in 0.777 as a deposit from our Ethereum wallet, which is in MetaMask, where you have full custody, into this Plasma sidechain. And now this MetaMask confirmation pops up, which you cannot see, and I click submit. And now you can see down here that it is lodging this deposit into the smart contract which is an on-chain action, which then will soon be put into the Plasma chain here. We can go over here into the entries, which shows you all of the entries in the Plasma Gluon sort of sidechain, where you have all the different entries for deposit, withdraw, trade, and fees that are paid in the transactions. And just need to wait for this to update on chain, and then it will show here. So this is not I already had 0.7 here, so this will pop up in a minute once it is fully confirmed. And one sec. Okay, so let me do some trading. We have, like I said, two different ERC20 tokens here. So this is only for spot trading right now in the first iteration. So we select Lev ETH, and we can do some selling here. We can do some buying here. And you see the fills here, just selling and buying. And then over here, as these are being conducted from you, the user, to Lev, this is all being done via zero-knowledge API keys. And then you can see the trades lodged as entries. These are the full entries in the Plasma Gluon chain. These are little transactions in what we call G blocks that are included, which then allow you afterwards to be able to check the full audit trail of all the trading, all the deposits, all the balance changes, everything that's happening off chain. And then once you are done doing whatever trading you need to do, then you can perform a withdrawal of funds. So let's say we bought a bunch of Lev, and now we want to withdraw some as well. So we put in then withdrawal. And this withdrawal, you can see the deposit of ETH that we made before is showing up in the G blocks here. We have now also this withdrawal we just made in Lev. And in this entries.html, which you can see now on the testnet, you have this all entries, which is basically all of the entries that everybody's having, the deposits, the withdrawals, the trades, the fees, anything that's changing any balances. You can see everything here. But there's a special way that we are handling withdrawals so we have a separate tab only for withdrawals. And here, when you make a withdrawal, like I did here, what it did was it created an entry here in the ledger for the Plasma chain, right? And then in order for us to complete that process, this claim needs to have two confirmations in our sidechain of two G blocks. So it have to be included in one of the G blocks, and then you would need to have a full second block afterwards to serve as two full confirmations. Then it will go from this not ready to claim. You see in this column, it tells you, hold on, this withdrawal is not yet ready to claim. So at most, on average, you'll need to wait about 20 minutes for this process to go through, so that it's confirmed on the Plasma chain, and then from there can be fully exercised on the main chain, where you are getting those funds, whether it's ETH or whether it's Lev or any other ERC20 token, and then you claim that, and then it goes from the here we go. I confirm this withdrawal here, and then the MetaMask confirmation pops up, and then you're applying it on chain. So then at that point, it's going from this side chain here of Gluon Plasma over to the main chain on Ethereum, where those funds then are being applied fully, so that you have it just on the normal Ethereum chain. One sec. Oops. There we go. And so it has a very decentralized feel in terms of the UX. There are some exchanges that make you wait hours to do a withdrawal. In our case, we can't allow completely instant withdrawal, because we do have this side chain or child chain, whatever you want to call it, that is needing to go through its process for auditability, verifiability, and fraud proofs. So it's usually going to be 20 minutes, and it could be more depending upon whether there is someone attempting to do fraud in the system that requires fraud proofs to be executed and tried. But that's something we'll address sort of in the coming months. We're going to be developing much more robust fraud proofs. But essentially, you're maintaining custody over your assets in this whole process of transferring into the Plasma chain, trading and transferring out. All of this is happening in a centralized pace, but with decentralized custody. And it hopefully seeing this visually of this Plasma chain balances and changes in the between Leverj and the users, that this helps you to get a bit closer in understanding the overall model that is being built. And to our knowledge, there's no other projects that have even gotten up to this point in developing a Plasma flavor that is actually compatible with the needs of traders, i.e., low latence, very high speed executions, and no gas cost, no W-ETH crap, none of that stuff. It's just purely you operating on the Ethereum chain and with the Plasma chain on the side. So, and one thing to emphasize here in terms of the trustlessness of the system, we've said the model is designed in such a way that even if the exchange is completely hijacked and the exchange tries to put in false entries, that the system will be able to provide a check on that. That's the whole point of the fraud proofs, is that if there's any funny business on this side chain here, then immediately someone can put a stop to it. That's going to become more clear here in the next couple of months. We're going to run many simulations, and hopefully the beta testers will assist in exhaustively testing a lot of these processes to maintain that the security and everything. So that's the journey in and out of Plasma trading on Leverj with normal spot token trading, and obviously we have to wrap up this basic model of how the asset custodial processes work, and then we'll be shifting over later in the year to futures and derivatives trading, where there's high leverage trading. But we wanted to first establish this model in the spot context to get a couple of the basics in the model down, and also to breathe life into our Lev and fee by token model economy. So as far as what else is coming soon, so we're going to be soon adding the trading fees from the exchange getting sent over to the testnet staking app, so that we'll basically have the whole flow running on the exchange itself, but also in the Lev fee test staking economy, so that there's going to be basically a constant flow of ETH and FEE tokens sent to the staking app, which then pays out to people that are doing the staking, and then hopefully that also helps to complete the circle for people mentally for how exactly this whole Plasma business is working with Leverj. And we're also going to be, with the new hire, going to be focusing a lot more resources on UI UX, because now this core functionality is starting to get wrapped up. We need to then, as I mentioned before, shift more of our focus to usability. But laterally to this, UI UX effort, we're going to be finishing up the full fraud proofs to ensure that in every and all cases of any kind of fraud or any kind of misuse of either the exchange or anybody essentially in the model, we can really make it trustless, so that everything is covered. So no matter how much money you have in the Gluon Plasma system, you are not you're not at risk. And so that in the same vein, we need to do extensive pen testing and security reviews, and we have numerous partners we have engaged to go through this process. So that's a process that's going to take quite a bit of time. You can't rush the security process, so we need to get a nice full internal and external audits of that. And finally, something to note, that we may be updating the staking contract to accommodate more sort of platform protocol type interaction in the Lev fee model, so that other projects which are excited about Gluon Plasma could integrate into the Lev fee economy and establish their own non-custodial trading projects that want to create their own sort of Lev fee economy of their own using our tokens. So we'll provide more updates on exactly how this is going to look in the future. But one more thing I wanted to address, since this was also part of some discussion that's been going on in the main group and the beta testing group. So people are asking, well, when's mainnet? So we can see that there's some functionality, but what about and that you guys had, that we had basically gotten things by the May deadline on testnet, some of the basics, and now we are making more and more progress to finishing that functionality. So then the question naturally is, well, when are we going to mainnet? Because that's really when the actual Lev and fee token economy benefits from all of this work. So I mean, basically, we are nearly complete on this functionality. So The problem is we don't want to rush into this primarily because of security considerations. So as we are developing these fraud proofs, we would really like more beta testers to engage on this angle and dimension. So we, as we are developing the fraud proofs to cover these different cases, we need to test everything thoroughly. So we're going to be going through the waiting list of beta testers who have been patiently waiting and been queued up. And we're going to be adding more beta testers to help us to, because we really want to make sure the security is completely on par. So aside from the professionals we have partnered with and our internal guys that are digging into this, we need also the public to go crazy and try to hack and exploit as much of the system as possible. And let us know if you find anything, and we'll pay you, in different ways. Just contact us with any sort of bug or exploit you have found, and anybody who wants to contribute in this area is always free to join us in this effort. We are an open source project. A lot of the code that we are writing is public on GitHub. We do have private repos, obviously, for where we have to maintain some level of discretion in some of the server-side code, but we want this to be a full open community-driven project. So if you have not yet gotten on this waiting list to beta test in any of the dimensions, whether it's UI, UX, whether it's security, whatever it may be, please contact Vilo in Telegram and let her know that you would like to be on this, because we're going to be refreshing this beta testing group list, and would be glad to get on some new fresh energy. So that's what I have now. So if anybody has any questions, either Telegram or wherever, Vilo can mention them here, and we'll be happy to respond.
All right. So while we wait for a few questions, if there are any, just to reiterate what Swapman was saying on the beta testing group. So this coming week, we are doing a beta tester rotation. So we have a solid number of loyal testers who will be staying with us. And while others that we are very grateful to have worked with, I have to move their focus elsewhere. So that leaves room for us to invite a new round of testers. And those who have signed up on our wait list over the past few weeks will be receiving invitations to our beta program this coming week. And for a spot on the beta tester program wait list, please contact us on Telegram, and I will get you a sign-up form via DM. So, okay, we've got a question from our homie Domi. Is the smart contract responsible for the ETH transfer to Plasma readable?
Right. So maybe Shashank can chime in for more of the technical side of this. But that we're going to certainly have all the code audited, but whether it is fully readable, as in all of the method code and stuff, I have to double check with Nirmal or Shashank, which can maybe confirm.
Yeah, sure. I can just chime in briefly. So, as some of you may be aware, in the past, whatever smart contracts that have even gone live or something that has gone into public, it only makes prudent sense for all of us to get them audited and make them public, because that's in some sense the essence of having a smart contract publicly out there. The way we are working through it right now, though, is that we will keep it private as we iterate through it. There is a lot of logic that's getting added on to the smart contracts, and the smart contract is going through its own evolution. And then at some point in time, once it's all good and ready to go live and has gone through its fraud proofs testings, if you may, it'll certainly be there for the public eye. So it'll go through its phases, if you may. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah, so just to add on to that and to clarify what I was saying before as well, like there's a lot of code that we are writing, smart contract and server side and otherwise, that is in private repos. So while we do have lots of commit activity on the main account with many of the repos that are public, there's a lot of stuff you guys aren't necessarily seeing now, and we're going to be forthcoming about this code, but it has to remain private as we are doing certain development, and then we want to do our own auditing, and then of course it will be public down the line.
All right, any more questions? Looking about, maybe not, waiting for questions to come in if there are any. Does anyone else from the team have anything else they'd like to say?
I guess I wanted to just also reiterate, because there was another concern that a lot of the testers were giving feedback on general UX, UI sort of layout-based considerations, and I wanted to emphasize and reiterate that this is very crude outline that we have made in terms of the layout, right? So don't worry, it's not going to look like shit like this when we go live. This is just a very, we wanted to facilitate the basic functionality in the first wave of updates that we do, and we're going to make this totally user friendly. So right now, don't be scared that, oh my god, these guys have made something that is unusable. Don't worry about that. This is going to be much more smooth, and it's going. We've hired new resources. We invested new resources to address this precisely, and it's just that our focus has been on this main functionality, and now we are wrapping up that stuff, focusing on security, and laterally focusing also on improving usability. So bear with us, please, on this in the coming months.
Thank you, Swapman. Well said and much appreciated. All right, it looks like we are just about finished for this webinar. So I'd like to just say thank you to all who have joined us today, and thank you to the team. And we look forward to the coming weeks and the progress that we will have for our next webinar. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a good weekend. Bye.